The last time I saw my brother smile was the day he stole my inheritance. Marcus sat in our family lawyer's office, perfectly groomed in his expensive suit, watching with barely concealed glee as Mr. Patterson read our father's will. To my son Marcus, I leave my company, Patterson Electronics, along with my investment portfolio, properties, and 95% of my liquid assets. Marcus's smile widened. I gripped the arms of my chair, already knowing what was coming. To my daughter Emma, I leave. Mr. Patterson paused, adjusting his glasses uncomfortably. $1,000 in my collection of business books. $1,000? I whispered, the shock hitting me like a physical blow. That's impossible. Dad promised. Oh, come on, Em, Marcus interrupted, his voice dripping with false sympathy. We both know Dad changed his mind after you refused to join the family business. All those years wasting time with your independent consulting, instead of learning electronics? What did you expect? What I expected was for my father to keep his word. 3 months before his unexpected death, he'd promised me half of everything. Your independent spirit reminds me of myself at your age, he'd said during our last dinner together. But somehow the will had been changed in those final weeks when Marcus had taken control of Dad's care, limiting my visits with claims of doctor's orders. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. There is one more item. Emma, your father left you his old workshop in the industrial district. The property has been neglected for some years. Marcus actually laughed out loud. The junk shop? Perfect. Maybe you can open a vintage store or something equally quaint. I stood up, gathering my dignity along with my meager inheritance. The workshop had been Dad's first business location, where he'd started Patterson Electronics 40 years ago. Now it was just a rundown building in a forgotten part of town, worth less than the taxes owed on it. Enjoy your victory, Marcus, I said quietly, walking toward the door. Oh, I will, he called after me. And hey, if you need a loan for that vintage store, I might be able to spare some of my inheritance. I let the door close on his laughter, but not before hearing him say to Mr. Patterson, finally, I can buy that mansion on Highland Drive. You know, the Carter Estate? It's been my dream house since we were kids. The Carter Estate. Of course. The sprawling Victorian mansion that had belonged to the city's founding family. Marcus had been obsessed with it since we were teenagers, always talking about how he'd buy it one day when he was successful enough. Walking to my car, a modest Audi that Marcus always mocked, I thought about what lay ahead. He expected me to fade away, probably come crawling back in a few months begging for a job at Patterson Electronics. He had no idea what I'd been building these past 5 years while he was busy playing corporate air. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant, Sophie. Everything okay? Should I proceed with Operation Phoenix? I smiled for the first time that day. Operation Phoenix, named after the mythical bird that rises from ashes, was my contingency plan. I'd started putting it together the moment Marcus began restricting my access to Dad. Yes, I typed back. Start phase 1. And Sophie? Find out everything you can about the Carter Estate. Market value, current owners, any pending sales. Driving through the city, I made my way to Dad's old workshop. The building looked even worse than I remembered. Broken windows, graffiti-covered walls, a sagging roof that probably leaked. But as I unlocked the rusty door, memories flooded back. This was where Dad had taught me electronics when I was little, before Marcus was born, and everything changed. This was where I'd learned to solder my first circuit board, where Dad had shown me that anything broken could be fixed if you understood how it worked. The interior was dark and dusty, filled with old equipment and forgotten inventory. But under the grime and neglect, I could see the bones of something solid. Something with potential. My phone buzzed again. Sophie had been busy. Carter Estate currently owned by elderly couple considering selling. Asking price $5.2 million. Your brother's already made an offer through Patterson Electronics. Perfect. Marcus always did like to use company money for personal purchases, a habit I'd carefully documented over the years. One more thing, Sophie added. The first audit reports are in. You were right about the hidden accounts. I walked to the workshop's old office, where Dad's massive desk still stood covered in dust. Opening my laptop, I reviewed Sophie's findings. For the past 3 years, I'd been quietly investigating Patterson Electronics, using my consulting business as cover. What I'd discovered would have broken Dad's heart. Marcus hadn't just been using company funds for personal expenses. He'd been systematically draining the company's accounts, hiding losses through creative accounting, and preparing to sell off the most valuable patents to overseas competitors. Another text from Sophie: "Should I contact our friends at the SEC?" "Not yet," I replied. "Let's wait until Marcus makes his move on the Carter estate. Time everything perfectly." I looked around the workshop, seeing past the decay to what it could become. While Marcus had been learning how to spend money at Patterson Electronics, I'd been learning how to make it. My independent consulting had grown into a sophisticated technology investment firm, operating under various shell companies to maintain anonymity. Standing in the middle of Dad's old workshop, I made a decision. Marcus thought he'd won everything with his manipulated inheritance. He thought the $1,000 in this broken-down building were worthless. He was about to learn how wrong he was. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Miss Patterson? This is James Carter. I understand you might be interested in our family estate." I smiled, thinking of Marcus's dream house and the look on his face when he realized who had outbid him. "Yes, Mr. Carter," I replied. "I believe I am. Shall we discuss terms?" Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about taking what someone wants. It's about taking it in a way that makes them watch, helpless as their dreams crumble. Marcus had stolen my inheritance, but he'd given me something far more valuable: motivation. And I was about to show him exactly what that motivation could build. 3 months passed in a blur of calculated moves and careful preparation. I spent my days transforming Dad's old workshop into something he would have been proud of, not just restoring it but revolutionizing it. The worthless building became the secret headquarters of Phoenix Technologies, my rapidly growing tech investment firm. While Marcus was busy redecorating his corner office at Patterson Electronics, I was quietly acquiring the patents he was planning to sell. While he bragged at board meetings about his brilliant leadership, I was documenting every fraudulent transaction, every misappropriated fund. And while he negotiated for his dream house, I was setting up the perfect trap. "Miss Patterson?" Sophie entered my newly renovated office, her expression carefully neutral. "The Carter estate sale is closing today. Your brother just increased his offer to $6 million. I looked up from my computer where I'd been reviewing the latest SEC filings for Patterson Electronics. "What's our current bid?" $7.5 million through Wellington Holdings. She paused. "He doesn't know it's us." I smiled, remembering Marcus's words at the will reading. "Has he started moving money from the company accounts yet?" Sophie handed me a tablet showing various financial transfers. "Just as you predicted. He's already shifted $3 million from the Corporate Development Fund. The board hasn't noticed because he's hiding it in fake R&D projects." "And the SEC?" "Our anonymous tip about suspicious activities at Patterson Electronics has triggered a preliminary investigation. They're particularly interested in the overseas patent sales." Perfect timing. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "Hey sis. Heard you're actually doing something with Dad's old junk shop. Need any help?" I could spare a few dollars from my inheritance, winking face. I didn't reply. Let him think I was still the struggling sister trying to make something of her $1,000 inheritance. Let him enjoy his imagined superiority for a few more hours. "Sophie, is everything ready for this afternoon?" She nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "The movers are on standby. The security team is in place. And the press release about Phoenix Technologies' acquisition of the Carter estate is scheduled for 3 p.m., right after the closing." I stood up, straightening my Armani suit. No more modest clothes, not today. What about our other surprise? The SEC investigators will arrive at Patterson Electronics at 2 p.m. Just in time to catch Marcus trying to transfer company funds for his personal house purchase. I checked my watch. 1:30 p.m. Time to head to the real estate office for the closing. Time to show Marcus exactly what his struggling sister had built from that $1,000 inheritance. The real estate office was housed in one of downtown's most prestigious buildings. As I walked through the marble lobby, I caught sight of Marcus through the glass doors, already celebrating with a group of executives from Patterson Electronics. "Just signed the preliminary papers." I heard him boast as I approached. "The Carter estate is finally mine. Dad would be so proud." "Actually," I said, stepping into the room, We should probably discuss that. Marcus turned, his triumphant smile faltering slightly as he took in my appearance. Gone was the modest sister in simple clothes. In her place stood the CEO of Phoenix Technologies, dressed for success and carrying a briefcase full of surprises. Emma? What are you doing here? Don't tell me you're buying some little condo. No, brother dear. I'm here about the Carter estate. I set my briefcase on the conference table. Or more specifically, I'm here to outbid you. He laughed, but there was an edge of uncertainty in it. Outbid me? What? Your $1,000 inheritance. I opened my briefcase and began laying out documents. Actually, with the profits from Phoenix Technologies. You know, the company I built while you were busy draining Dad's legacy. His face paled slightly. Phoenix Technologies? That's your company. One of them. I smiled, enjoying the way his confidence began to crack. Wellington Holdings, the firm that just bid $7.5 million for your dream house? That's mine too. The real estate agent cleared her throat. Mr. Patterson, is there something wrong with the company funds transfer? The bank is showing some irregularities. Marcus's face went from pale to ashen. Just a temporary glitch. Let me make a few calls. Oh, I wouldn't bother calling the office, I said casually. They're probably a bit busy with the SEC investigators right now. Fascinating thing about corporate fraud. It always leaves a trail. Corporate fraud? One of the executives repeated, suddenly looking concerned. Emma, what have you done? Marcus hissed, grabbing my arm. I removed his hand slowly, deliberately. I haven't done anything except build my own success while watching you destroy Dad's company. Those overseas patent sales you've been planning? Walked. The corporate accounts you've been draining? Documented. The inheritance you stole through a manipulated will? That evidence is with the prosecutors. The room had gone completely silent. The executives were already edging toward the door, no doubt eager to distance themselves from the impending scandal. You can't prove anything, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. I pulled out one final document, a copy of Dad's original will, dated just weeks before his death. Actually, I can prove everything, including how you changed Dad's will while keeping me from seeing him in those final weeks. The real estate agent, clearly sensing the tension, spoke up. Perhaps we should reschedule the closing. No need, I said firmly. I believe you'll find the funds from Wellington Holdings have already been transferred. The sale can proceed as planned. I turned to Marcus. By the way, you'll need to clear out your office at Patterson Electronics. The SEC tends to frown on executives using company funds for personal property purchases. Marcus slumped into a chair, his dream of owning the Carter estate crumbling before his eyes. Why? He whispered. Why go to all this trouble? I leaned close, keeping my voice low. Because you taught me something valuable that day in the lawyer's office. You taught me that sometimes the best motivation comes from watching someone take what's yours. Standing up, I addressed the room at large. The Carter estate will be the new headquarters of Phoenix Technologies. We'll be announcing the purchase, along with our acquisition of controlling interest in Patterson Electronics, at 3 p.m. today. As I gathered my documents, I heard Marcus's phone begin buzzing frantically, no doubt the office calling about the SEC's surprise visit. Oh, and Marcus? I paused at the door. Thanks for the motivation. That $1,000 inheritance was the best thing you could have given me. It taught me to build something of my own, something you couldn't steal. The next few weeks unfolded exactly as I'd planned. The SEC investigation into Patterson Electronics revealed years of financial misconduct, leading to Marcus's immediate removal as CEO. The company's stock plummeted as news of his fraudulent activities made headlines across the business world. I watched it all from my new office in the Carter estate, which I'd transformed into a state-of-the-art headquarters for Phoenix Technologies. The Victorian mansion's grandeur remained intact, but now it housed one of the fastest-growing tech investment firms in the country. Miss Patterson? Sophie entered, carrying the morning papers. Your brother's trial date has been set. And the Patterson Electronics board has approved our acquisition offer. I took the papers, scanning the headlines: Patterson Electronics scandal, Air faces criminal charges, and Phoenix Technologies emerges as industry leader. But it was the smaller article that caught my attention. Emma Patterson, from $1,000 inheritance to tech empire. My phone buzzed. a text from our mother who'd finally broken her silence. I had no idea what Marcus did with your father's will. Can we talk? Before I could respond, Sophie spoke again. There's something else. Your brother's here. Security found him trying to get in through the servants' entrance. I walked to the window looking down at the estate's sprawling grounds. There he was, the mighty Marcus Patterson, looking considerably less polished than the last time I'd seen him. His designer suit had been replaced by off-the-rack clothing, his confident stride now a defeated shuffle. Send him up, I said, settling behind my desk, Dad's old desk which I'd restored and moved from the workshop. Marcus entered hesitantly, his eyes taking in the office that should have been his. The Carter estate had been his dream since childhood, and now his little sister sat in what would have been his study. Nice place, he managed, attempting a weak smile. Though I would have decorated it differently. I'm sure you would have, I replied coolly. What do you want, Marcus? He sank into one of the leather chairs facing my desk. The SEC froze all my accounts. The board is demanding repayment of the misappropriated funds. My lawyers. He swallowed hard. They say I'm looking at serious prison time. And I need your help, Emma. You won this round, okay? You proved you're smarter than all of us. But we're still family. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. The last picture taken of Dad in his workshop, teaching me about circuit boards while Marcus was off at some luxury summer camp. Family? Like you were family when you changed Dad's will? When you kept me from seeing him in his final weeks? I was wrong, he whispered. I was greedy and stupid. But you've got everything now, the company, the estate, the success. Can't you show some mercy? I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. You know what I remember most about that day in the lawyer's office? Not the shock of learning about the changed will, or the pain of losing my inheritance. No, what I remember most is your laughter. The way you mocked my little consulting business and offered to loan me money from my own stolen inheritance. I'm sorry, he said, but we both knew it was too late for apologies.